That's awesome.
All right, everyone, thank you so much. It is Thursday, January 8th at 6:30 p.m. and this is the Arts and Culture Board for Littleton, Colorado. Our first and very possibly shortest meeting of 2026.
Woo woo.
But we'll see. The very first thing on our agenda is our City Council Liaisons Report.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I did want to actually ask everybody, just real quick, like, what would you be hoping to get out of my council reports? I was thinking about this over the last year, and I always kind of come in and I'm like, got some ideas about what you want to hear, what might be relevant. But does anyone have any thoughts on like what would be most helpful? Because let me actually, before I do that, here's what I'm thinking about doing is I would just kind of fill you in on what's on the council's agenda for the study sessions and council sessions from now till the next meeting. If that sounds helpful, I'm happy to do that. If that sounds like kind of like, nah, I don't need to. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I think you just like what are the top one or two big issues that you guys are looking at? Because if it has nothing to do with arts and culture,
That's,
right?
yeah.
Then, maybe we do that, I guess.
Yeah, well, I was gonna go through all of there's a tree study that we were gonna discuss. I was gonna go through like several pages of that. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, sure.
Yes, okay, so what I will let you all know is, during next week's study session on Tuesday night, we will be discussing the boards and commissions appointment process. The process, like the specific process that we're discussing, we wanted to actually write that down, make sure it was consistent, because it was sort of being done on a little bit of an ad hoc basis of like, oh, here's how we feel good about doing this. And I think it's important that we have a consistent process that feels, I think consistency results in fairness. Process matters. So if you want to see the details of what that process looks like, it should be included in the materials for next week's study session, which you can find online. If anyone has questions about that process, I have all those details, but I'm not going to get into the details of what the process is. And then, let me see here. We will be discussing tree canopy requirements and tree fee in lieu on January 20th, regular council meeting. Won't get into the details of that. What I do think might be interesting for folks in here is at February 3rd's regular meeting, among some other business, 2 proclamations will be issued. One of those is for the 60th anniversary of the Friends of the Library and Museum. Be cool if anyone is interested in being there for that, for you to be there. We'll also be doing a proclamation on Black History Month at that same meeting. And then finally, on February 10th study session, which is prior to the next ACB meeting, we'll be getting some updates on Main Street improvements. I do think this is relevant to this board because public art should be a part of that discussion and how we're moving forward with downtown. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions if anyone has any, but that's all I got.
Anybody have questions?
Just a comment, just as you're looking at Arts and Culture Board, just a couple comments. Over the years, I think people initially thought that it was something pretty fluffy, like we're just gonna make pretty things. And you've been with us long enough to know that it's more about the grant process.
Yes.
And it's really kind of a heavy lift. I don't want to say it's boring because we are not boring, but just that it's very different than, because arts and culture, yeah, people just think of something kind of fluffy. This is.
It's a serious.
It's strategic, it's grants, it's that kind of stuff and so I think those are some of the things that we're looking at with a focus on arts and culture.
Thank you.
Arts and Culture Board. We don't make pretty things, we are pretty things.
We also have to.
We need shirts, I think.
That's
great.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. Of course. And I think that's a great plan moving forward. Next on the agenda, director's reports.
A short report from the library. We celebrated another good year at the end of 2025. Most of our service metrics ended up tracking about on par with the previous year, if not a little bit above. We did see some noticeable increases in a couple areas, specifically our one-to-one appointment-based services our outreach events, and our technology and computer usage, among a couple others. We also saw a noticeable increase in our number of home delivery appointments, thanks in large part to the involvement of more volunteers in that service. Interestingly, overall, we did see a little bit of a decline in volunteerism, so we'll be looking to find and recruit more volunteers and more opportunities for that next year. But a noticeable increase in the number of staff training events as well. So seeing some higher numbers in good areas and moderate increases in other areas too. So in terms of just raw numbers, happy with how that's showing out at the end of the year. Happy with our level of usage and our appreciation of the community that we serve. There was something else I was going to say. Oh, yes. And thanks to the members of our library subcommittee for reviewing and approving our new meeting room, our revised meeting room policy this past month, and for making time for that discussion. We're looking forward to some more meetings to review other policies, including a follow-up on our promotional materials policy and a revision of our collection development policy as well. So just to report out on the work of that subcommittee of this group. Thank you.
Museum had a great year as well. Holidays Eve was a sellout for the fourth year in a row with 1660 sold. Attendance was up about 10,000 over last year, which is a great trend as we continue to recover from COVID. So we were at about 128,000 in 2025. Volunteer hours were down as well for us. Store sales were up. Yeah, great year for the museum. The Ann Filler exhibit closes this Sunday, so if you haven't spent some time in there, please do that before Sunday or before we close on Sunday. And we're getting pretty excited. We should have 100% design development done on the history gallery renovation. So if anybody's interested in that, give us a shout. We're happy to share those final designs.
When is it gonna start? When are they gonna start building?
2027.
There's a HVAC
It's underway.
underway.
Yep. So we're poking around at VAVs and a lot of prep work is coming. We're setting up fenced areas for equipment to be dropped off. And they are contractors chomping at the bit. So we're thrilled about that. Hoping this nice weather holds on just a little longer. But yeah, that's underway.
Any other questions for Tim or Becky? I'm sorry, Dennis or Becky? All right. The next thing then on our agenda is public comment. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. The Arts and Culture Board is not authorized by the Colorado Open Meeting Law to discuss, comment, or take action at the meeting on any issue raised by public comment that is not already a part of tonight's agenda. I may refer that matter to appropriate city staff for immediate comment after the public comment period, or obtain additional information and report back to the board as appropriate. It looks like we have 2 people joining us tonight. Can I ask Becky or Anna or Jenny to time the 3 minutes for me? Thank you very much. First up, Kevin, if you would like to.
Where would you like?
You may, honestly, you can stand, you can sit, you can be wherever you'd like to be, so long as you feel heard.
Oh, I'm cool. My audience would like to say back in the Old West. Does anybody know what happened around the museum here back in 1978 in the 1860s farm? It's kind of special. Well, I'll tell you. Back in 1978, I was at Lakeside Amusement Park in the fun house with my sister and a couple of friends. Budding young man. My sister turned to me and she said to me, "I'm tired." And she collapsed in my arms and died. Terrible event. My family has always been, at least back then, very involved in the museum. This problem has vexed me for 40 plus years. My sister's memorial fund, of which there were several hundred people at her funeral, helped pay for the renovation of the old schoolhouse. And my family has been asking, and me on and off for years, if we could get that recognized. Now, I understand Declan, Lorena, and Bob McQuarrie were here. No plaques on the historic assets. And I totally agree with that as a historic preservationist and a historic reenactor. In fact, I did my blacksmith internship here in '79 with Bob, and then went on to become quite a successful blacksmith in the Southwest in New Mexico. What I'm asking is, just some recognition of her memorial contribution to that building. It could be as simple as Catherine Livingston Koenig's Memorial Fund helped restore the historic Littleton Schoolhouse in 1978. And it could be just on the website. That's simple. No plaques, nothing, just a recognition of the contribution from my family and her passing and our love of the museum. So I'd like the museum board and you guys to consider honoring that. I'm the last of my family still standing. And I'd like to get this done or find out a mechanism where we can recognize that contribution to the museum. So that's my simple ask.
Thank you so much for sharing tonight.
So, yeah, I used to blacksmith here until they turned it into a full-time job and I just couldn't take it. But yeah, I've been around the museum since it opened. And I'm gonna come back next month and ask another request. But I didn't want to overdo my stay. But I was here for the barn raising and all the events back in the day. And the museum program with kids, I was in that and then volunteered for that. And used to go out, big tree out in front and have lunch and concerts. So a lot of good memories here. And it was so fun to see a lot of your faces, seeing a stranger here going, oh no, not someone from the public. I served on the Historic Preservation Board for 10 years. I do the same things. Oh no. Because there's usually Jack Randall or David Randall, and I knew they were going to yell at me. So, anyways, I appreciate the time. Hope you could consider something or an option or anything I can do to make something happen. So appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up for public comment, Andrew. Bring this.
Hello, my name is Andrew Ernstein. I have lived in Littleton for 14 years and both my kids graduated from Heritage High School. And the younger of them designed a flag for the city of Littleton because there is no flag flying for the city of Littleton. There is an emblem in the city council chamber, but it's not really an official flag. It's just the seal of the city on material. And my kid studied flag design and basic tenets are badges and seals and lettering is generally discouraged from good flag design. A flag should be out waving in public where people can see it and recognize it. It should be distinctive and have simple, easily reproducible colors. This flag meets all those criteria and it speaks to the history, the Western history, starting from here. The river that runs through Littleton is the blue line. And then the advent of industry here, that's the end of the story as we read from left to right. So this is my child's design for a flag. I'm not saying it's the only reasonable design for a flag for the city of Littleton, but I do think that for a wonderful town that we all call home, it's a shame that we don't have a flag. Denver has a flag. It echoes the state flag colors, but is unique to Denver and makes sense. Queen City of the Rockies, gateway to the Rockies, all that stuff. This flag tells the story of Littleton, and I think it would be a great improvement. I was told by the city manager and one of the city council members that I should come before you because it's maybe more of an arts and culture thing than a urgent city business thing to take up. And if anybody in this committee would be interested in taking up the gauntlet and pushing for a flag or a contest for a new flag for the city of Littleton, I would really appreciate it.
Thank you. And tell your students well done.
Thank you. They're in college now, so going for their doctorate in philosophy. But it was a project of love, you know, when they were in middle school, high school years. So.
Well, thank you very much. I don't have anyone else on the list and I don't see anyone else in the room. So with that, I will bring the public comment section of the meeting to a close, which brings us then to our presentation for the night. Rachel King is here from the Economic Development Department to talk about many things broadly.
Please
So-
talk amongst yourselves for a couple minutes while I get your presentation pulled up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, how's that going?
Fine, we're
How
getting.
long is that?
Until check. Until-
Maybe once a month.
yeah. And I think we're about to.
Yeah, it's like.
Well, like we read through the whole charter, and, like
Wait,
flagged
it's 10
things.
months?
No. Or Denise is read through the whole charter
Yeah.
and like flagged things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it, and then we're gonna start talking about it. Knew that I had a meeting. I hadn't thought of. And the calendar and it's like, it's like so much more fun.
What is it about?
I'll text that to you now.
Yeah. Fair and Thursday.
Katie, when do you start back teaching?
City attorneys.
Joining?
I've been back this
I
week.
just moved up to Deputy City.
The
Manager there.
semester starts after Martin
We're,
Luther
I
Day.
don't know how. we're gonna
All the
get
faculty
around
come
to
back next week and then it's 2
Like
weeks.
formalizing recommendations.
Do you have any time to come see me next week?
I wanna
This
come
year,
see
but
you.
yes, they have, that's the end goal.
I do.
So it's not a new thing, it's just.
It happens,
Let me look
it
at
happens
the,
every like 10-ish years.
next week is crazy because it's BCC week. This week actually.
I'll have it tomorrow.
What about Monday?
Do Monday.
This is Monday.
I
It's
think
just
it's-
before the.
I think that there's intentional people back here, right? Like, so that it's not same small groups of people.
Good.
Okay, we are back and ready.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Rachel King. I'm the city's Economic Development Director. I've been with the city now officially for over a year. It was late last year that I hit my 1 year with the city. So it's been a busy first year, and we're ramping up for a busier second year for my tenure here. You know, you're keeping track of the development in Littleton, and it's hard not to. There's been a lot that's been put into place over the last decade, but in particular the last 5 years or so, with a lot of activity that's literally starting to come out of the ground now. And we're seeing that progress hit here in Littleton. So Littleton is growing rapidly. Our goal in economic development is to try to direct that growth in a strategic way that makes sure to honor the history here and the incredible culture and community that has been built here over 100+ years in Littleton, which is pretty incredible. So, gosh, I think it was last summer when JD first asked me some questions about hotels in Littleton. And we've been in a long conversation about hotels, specifically in downtown or in other areas of the city. That conversation has, like many others, kind of meandered in and out of priority and budget, et cetera, based on lots of things, you know, including things outside of our control. But when we landed on the date for me to come present today, we do have slight updates on hotel feasibility, but we thought it was still a good idea for me to come and present generally on what we're getting ready to tackle in 2026, but also some of those other pieces that do directly impact this board and this work. So I'll kind of get to hotel conversation at the end of the presentation, but if you bear with me, I'll just go through a couple of preliminary slides first. So if you were at the CAP meeting last year when I presented, this will look familiar to you, but this is kind of usually a base of where I like to start when talking about economic development. It can be a pretty vague term to a lot of folks. So what is economic development, and specifically from a city standpoint, right? There's a lot of economic development organizations out there that have different roles than what a city might do. So I just like to include this in here as a reminder of where we can operate with our city resources and staff, what we don't do, and then really how we support others doing this work in the city. So primarily, we like to focus on attraction, retention, and expansion efforts. Those are kind of fancy terms to say we want businesses to come here, stay here, and grow here, right? To do that, we do get into a small amount of small business programming and support, mostly through incentives. We assist with marketing for businesses, marketing or business awareness. We're an advocate for development, again, the right development that's a right fit for Littleton. We advocate for policy change and for incentives to help bring in the right types of businesses and help grow the right types of businesses. And we do a lot of that through regional partnerships. Things we don't do, we're not a real estate broker, right? So if a business calls and says, we want to land in Littleton, we can generally point them in the right direction, but we're not gonna walk them around property to property and help them find their spot. Lending has a little bit of a caveat to it, and you'll hear a little bit about this later, but we don't traditionally lend out funds to businesses, but we are starting a program this year that can help fill a little bit of that gap for some businesses. We can't over incentivize. So if you pay attention to some development news nationally, a lot of cities get into some heat over how much they provide to businesses to come in. Colorado actually has a policy that requires us to prove a public benefit for all of the incentives that we provide. Part of that is workforce programming, right? What are we getting from the jobs that are coming in to that? But we don't do that at the city. We rely on our partners at AD Works to help with that workforce programming, and for folks at the state as well to provide some of those job training resources. We also can't start your business or provide legal advice, right? But we do have partners, again, like Small Business Development Center, for example, that we might be able to point a business to if they need assistance with those types of things. And then, of course, we support all of our departments here in the city and our community boards and commissions and community organizations as much as possible. So our support is focused on, again, that strategic and balanced development, long-range financial planning for the city. So as Littleton builds out more and more and more, keeping up with that pace of development so that we don't get to 30 years down the road and not be able to balance the checkbook, right? The city's budget is primarily made up from sales tax. So over 80% of our budget comes from sales tax revenue here. That's why it's critical from a fiscal sustainability perspective alone that we consider the commercial development in Littleton. Along with that comes tourism. And again, the reason why we're here, right? Arts and culture. What is that sparkle factor that we all know Littleton has that keeps drawing people in here? And when you come here, you want to stay here. Or if you grew up here, you might find yourself coming back, right? Littleton is unique. And we have to do our best to retain that uniqueness and keep investing in those things that make it special, and arts and culture is a big part of that. Okay, whoops, Anna, I think I sent you the wrong one.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh dear.
Do you have
Sorry,
your phone on you or?
I do. Sorry, guys,
Hang tight.
sent- Yes, hang tight. Let's see. Okay. We'll see how long that takes to
Okay.
surf
No worries.
surf the Wi-Fi. Sorry for the delay, folks. I guess while we're waiting, do you guys have any questions that I can take on kind of that lengthy preamble? Me just sit through. No.
On the point of.
I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. You
I'm not a
wanted to
member, so
comment
I
or
can't say.
participate.
Okay, all right. Sorry, folks. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so for economic development, we have a pretty robust work plan for 2026, as you can see here. So I'm not going to go item by item, but top of our list and what we kicked off this week is an arts and culture economic impact study. So I'm going to get to that in a few slides. We're also reviewing a number of policies related to our incentive package this year, making sure that we're filling as many gaps as possible to help with that attraction and retention strategy. This city itself has quite a long list of projects that it's already kicked off or will be kicking off this year that economic development is a big part in. So Littleton Boulevard Subarea Plan, Project Downtown, Transportation Master Plan, Climate Risk and Vulnerability Assessment, et cetera. So those are four of the primary ones for this year. Our team is also keenly focused in 2026 on all of these development assets that are starting to come online now. So we've seen investment in mixed use projects, multifamily, commercial, et cetera, that are now starting to get in under construction or towards the end of construction. And so our team is always connected with that developer if there's a commercial property included. So if there's a lease to be signed, we are working with that developer to help match make, if you will, for folks that we might know that are looking for space or to attract a key user to that space. So projects include Littleton Village that's still ongoing with leasing activity, Columbine Square, the River Park development by Evergreen at Mineral and Santa Fe, the Mineral Place development off of Mineral, couple of years from now, the Aspen Grove redevelopment. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but we're active with those projects. We're also, I'll talk more about this later, as I mentioned, but hoping to finalize the budget for hotel feasibility study to kick that off this year. Some other code updates and attraction or strategic development initiatives and then attraction initiatives for these catalytic assets. On the programming side, we have a nice new addition to our toolbox that I'll talk about a little bit more. This is through the Colorado Enterprise Fund. If you're familiar with that organization at the state level, it's for a community loan pool. We're very excited about that. Of course, we have our revitalization incentive grants that we'll be bringing online again this year. That's for facade improvements for businesses. And then we do have an expanded open rewards program this year as well. So we're looking at some more structured and strategic campaigns for that program because that's really our most flexible tool that we have. And then we have a couple of other initiatives that we're continuing from last year as well that I can talk through. So specifically for the arts and culture impact, I wanted to highlight a few things. So again, this Colorado Enterprise Fund Community Loan Pool, what is that? So the Colorado Enterprise Fund operates as a nonprofit organization at the state level, and they run a community loan pool program. This is a program that they administer. So this is a program through CEF. They administer it on behalf of municipalities. So municipalities like Adams County or Boulder or Arvada, et cetera, will invest funds into a loan pool for their community. CEF matches those funds, and then it administers small gap funding essentially for small businesses and startups. These are typically businesses that might not be as attractive to traditional lending partners. So it might be a little harder for them to get access to capital for key purchases like a delivery van or something like that for the business, right? They also help fund some larger scale projects if appropriate. But it's a really compelling program, and the program that they run is mission led from that CEF lens, nonprofit lens. So we're really excited to see that roll out. Hopefully here in the next couple of months, we'll have a kickoff for that event. So keep that in mind for some of your partners doing this work that may have had a project kind of earmarked for a while, but may not have been able to get lending for it. Again, our open rewards campaigns, we're sourcing ideas as we speak for how to use that program a little bit more creatively this year and moving forward. So rather than just sticking with the traditional campaigns for increased rewards for holidays or whatever, we're also looking at possibly targeting industries, possibly targeting slow periods for certain industries or for certain districts or areas, right? So if you're hearing from any of your retailers, because this is a sales tax-based incentive program, if you have retailers that you're connected with that have ideas for the open rewards campaigns, please let us know as well. The revitalization incentive grants, we talked about those facade improvements. If someone has a storefront that they'd really like to spruce up or make some expansions on, those applications will open in the spring. The enterprise zone is essentially a tax credit program run by the state for a myriad of different purchases or activities at the business level. If they're hiring on net new employees or purchasing a commercial vehicle or something, they might be able to qualify for these tax credits. And then our sustainable business partnership, we have a program lead, Aidan Lawton, who we share with Sheridan and Englewood, and he can help save businesses lots of money by implementing some pretty low entry sustainability upgrades for their storefronts and businesses. So that was a slew of information. I'll pause quickly just to make sure there's no questions on those programs. Most of them, I think it's the loan pool one that's new this year.
Is the investment in open rewards staying the same?
You mean the amount that the
Yeah.
city's investing into it? No, we increased that this year. So we have invested $150,000 for that campaign program. Yeah. Now that program has also adjusted a couple of kind of ceilings, if you will, and the platform itself has made adjustments. And so there's definitely changes to how it's administered as compared to last year. We haven't heard much negative feedback or any really from our users so far, but that is a change. So that combined with budget, we're hoping to make some significant impact with that one.
Awesome.
Okay, with events, so Alexandra couldn't join me tonight, but she wanted to make sure to go over the events, and these are specific to City of Littleton hosted events related to arts and culture or co-hosted events with another organization. So The big one to talk about is Illuminate Littleton, so I'll come back to that. But you're all familiar with Little Jam at Block Party, Western Welcome Week, and Candlelight, and those will continue this year. A lot of them in partnership with the other organizations. Our team also participates in putting these on more from the business coordination aspect, but Illuminate Littleton in particular is a new event, and not sure if this group is aware yet, but an announcement was made this week that Littleton this year will not be hosting the criterium. So that event, it's possible that event might be picked up by a private organization and run by a private organization, possibly in another area of the city. But the city will not be running the criterium this year. In lieu of the Illuminate Littleton event will be happening, and I think it's, if I have my date right, July 24th. This is a special event that we hope to continue, but this year it's inaugural to celebrate the Colorado 150, America 250, or vice versa, America 2, Colorado 150. Littleton has been selected by that committee as a host city for one of their celebratory drone shows to celebrate that event. So July 4th will be, I believe that includes an art festival as well, the drone show, food and beverage, of course, live music, etc. So that will be somewhat in replacement of the criterium this year.
It's on July 4th.
No, sorry, July 24th. Yes. So the other information relative to celebrating 250, 150, we are creating a new webpage with resources for businesses and artists. There are different ways to promote this event or do partnerships with this event. So you can add an event that you're doing to the website. You can advertise your business or a special promotion that you might be doing, or for artists, advertising a special project that you might be working on to celebrate the event. So all that information will be on the webpage with those resources for businesses as well. Most of our existing events will be kind of co-branded with that 250, 150. And included in that promotional material as well. And then, of course, we talked about the Illuminate Littleton event that's new this year.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
About events. How are decisions made and by whom, for example, to not continue the criteria?
So for using criterium as an example, the city collects kind of a myriad of data, right, on each event. So after each event concludes, we pull data from Placer, we pull expense reports, we pull information from businesses, et cetera, to find out kind of the impact of the event, how much it costs us, how many people visited. It's harder from a city level to expand it much past that into direct impact. But data is captured. And then this year in particular, Jessica Bixaman, our new communications and marketing director, is getting faced with a lot of requests from our various departments working on all of these other plans that we briefly talked about, right? Transportation Master Plan, Littleton Boulevard Subarea Plan, Project Downtown, the climate study. There's a number of other projects that she's getting requests for to support these events. So she had to do for this year in particular, a really strategic review in conjunction with city leadership and her team to figure out how much impact these events were having, how many attendees we have, you know, how impactful they are to the community, right? Of course, we're going to be keeping on the event calendar, the meet, greet, and eats events, for example, right? Those are really beneficial for our outreach to the community. Little jams are always very popular and very well attended. Those also tend to be low cost. The Criterium is by far the most expensive event that we've produced. Yes, there's a lot of tradition and history there. I think this year in particular, it kind of came down to that resource squeeze, truthfully, which means it's not to say that it won't come back or that we won't partner with a private organization that wants to do it. But this year in particular, it really felt like a resources balance. And nothing more than that, really. And I guess I'll look to Dennis and Becky because they've been in a couple or listened to a couple of conversations from a resources standpoint, I guess, from the city. But is there anything you guys would add to that?
Not a whole lot,
Okay.
because I think you've been close to the action on that specific event
Yeah.
than we have, but I can say that line of decision making is similar to one that's being used across all departments.
Yes, that's a good point too,
Yeah,
just
I
with
think
where
I
we're
think it's
at in the
fair.
budget.
All of our teams are having to take
Yeah.
that kind of a critical look at where our resources are going
Yes,
and how closely the impact is matching the purpose.
yes, exactly.
So the reason I asked was, and what I'm hearing is it was not a council decision and not brought to council.
Mhm,
It was made at an administrative staff or director level.
mhm.
And while the Criterium was a fun event, it doesn't necessarily, I'll just say personally, strike close to home as an important arts and culture event that we might be interested in. My fear is that other events that are more relevant to the arts and culture sphere might also face hard decisions in that very small staff vacuum, if I will. And I recognize the diligence that goes into those.
Yeah.
But what I would ask from our director representatives and of economic development and anyone else who's listening at home, I would strongly want to be, as an arts and culture board, consulted on,
Mhm.
significant events. And I think the Criterium probably would have been one that this board would have at least been curious to know. I think, last year they had an arts component to that event.
Yes.
And so I'm disappointed
Mhm.
to learn that happened without any public process, that it wasn't, and again, I didn't go to the council budget session in September, but to my awareness, it was never brought up at a public forum.
Got it.
So to the extent, Dennis and Becky and Rachel, that you would share that,
Of course,
and you can represent it as mine, not the whole bodies, but
sure.
that's unfortunate. And
Mhm.
again, what I worry about is that other similar events that are more arts and culture
Right.
relevant would face a similar fate.
Right, yeah. No, I can understand that. I'm happy to bring that back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Okay, so as I mentioned a bit earlier, we did just this week kick off our economic impact study for arts and culture. We are very excited to get this going. This is another one that kind of had to wait until, January 1 from a budget standpoint for us to kick off, but here we are. And I think it was worth the wait because we were able to secure BBC Research and Consulting, and they are the firm that completed the economic impact study for CBCA. So if you went to that event and saw that report announcement, that was the firm that did it there. So they're taking that fresh experience and stakeholder engagement that they conducted for the region with the CBCA report, and they're bringing that here into Littleton. And naturally, this is kind of a follow-up step, if you will, to your arts and culture strategic plan that you and council passed last year. So the benefit for us is that is an incredible body of work already completed. It's a nice report, I can say, here you go, BBC, have at it. And so it gives us a really solid foundation to start from with that analysis. What's important to note about this particular study is that it will not be limited to just economic impact. That's in part why we chose BBC. We wanted a firm that could bring it past just the crunching of numbers for direct and indirect impact to the city. What we're really hoping to get out of it is in that strategic plan and with the assets that we have and with where we're at in development in the city, what are those insights for investment opportunities related to arts and culture from an economic impact standpoint? What are the policy decisions that are really crucial and immediate that we need to be considering if we want successful implementation of the strategic plan and align it with a successful impact from an economic standpoint. So prioritizing those policies and the actions that have that greatest impact is what we're really asking BBC to help us provide. So because we kicked off, what did I tell you yesterday? I've been struggling to keep track of days this week, so I apologize, but we kicked off yesterday, so obviously very preliminary, but part of their scope is to revisit stakeholder engagement. I understand yourselves and a lot of your partners and organizations in this community were participated in the strategic plan engagement process. And so we're hoping to lean on you and Anna and others to help us guide that engagement and make sure that we're talking to the right folks as needed. It won't be a full duplication of efforts. There'll be specific questions or maybe specific partners that they'll be asking information from to help from this standpoint. But we anticipate the study to be done in April and then probably a report out to council, I would expect it either very late, well, no, not late April, but May. Yeah.
I have a question. Is this going to be similar to CDCA in that you intend to do a study every few years?
We can, depending on what we see. For right now, I'm hoping from our standpoint that there's a lot of that focus on kind of next steps for budget consideration and policy, changes that we might want to implement, things like that. But I do see value, especially as we continue this work and with the rollout of the strategic plan to continue tracking it. Other questions? Okay, hotels. Here we are. So part of our team's work is to assist development from a number of different angles. We can either field some questions and interest from a developer coming into Littleton and saying, I want to build X in this piece of property, or I'm in this sector and I think Littleton would be a really great spot to land. Or we could approach it from the other angle and say, we have this really kind of strange piece of property here. What can we do with it? Who can we shop around to and get some folks to come in on it? For the last few years, the team at the city for economic development and with other departments have been engaged in several conversations about this ideal development of kind of that boutique, small scale hotel, right? Wouldn't that be the greatest addition to downtown to really complement the visitor experience and be able to stay and play in downtown? Over the last couple of years, that conversation has expanded a little bit as well into Littleton Boulevard. As we talk about the future of the Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan, but also just the active, market interest that we have in Littleton Boulevard right now, making sure that downtown and the boulevard are really treated as one contiguous corridor. That conversation has expanded out into Littleton Boulevard as well. There have been several conversations with several hotel outfits. Right now, market is less than friendly to concepts like smaller boutique hotels. They just don't quite provide that revenue generation that a developer might be looking for from an initial investment standpoint and from their equity partners. In terms of, confidence that it'll go through. So we feel that doing a hotel feasibility study might help us fill in the knowledge gap a little bit in terms of data, and help out our hotel partners who might really be interested in developing here in Littleton, but they're not quite sure where to start. So right now we have, these are estimated counts. So ideally this would be updated in a feasibility study, but we have these 7 properties in Littleton, most of them around that kind of mid-size level. We have a few short-term rentals, although a few years back, the ability to do short terms was curbed pretty significantly here in Littleton. So not a lot of new activity there, of course. And then as we've been discussing, there's no current proposed projects for hotels in Littleton. But our feasibility study, depending on our funding sources for the year, would be fairly comprehensive. And so this kind of gives you a snapshot of all of the different pieces of data that we've heard from hotel partners is important to consider when they're making an investment. So we need to look at the market area, the community profile, who's visiting here and why, our current supply, how competitive they would be, the public benefit, looking at those development scenarios. Do we have somewhere for them to go? What concepts are possibilities? So in downtown Littleton, when you have some growth and development restrictions due to, things like the historic overlay, et cetera, those concepts are going to look a lot different than they would on Littleton Boulevard, or even, more different when you get down to Santa Fe and Mineral and County Line, et cetera. Obviously that financial and fiscal impact, what are the incentives that we could offer a hotel partner to come and build here? And then of course, the equity and community considerations for development. So hotel feasibility is when you start to really get into it, it's a lot to unpack, and a lot of data and decision-making nuance that goes into that from the developer and investment side. We hope to take some of that work off of their plate initially so that they feel better about fast forwarding their process to get to a place they feel comfortable maybe exploring a potential project on a certain property. So I'll pause there.
Okay, any questions?
I think it's all great. Yeah, and I agree 100% that we should be looking at other areas of the city, and what the impact is. So, yeah, I'm on board.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, do we think that even the act of doing the feasibility study indicates to the market? I don't know if this is how this works, because I am a businessman, I'm in government all around. But does the very act of doing this feasibility study sort of signal to the market that, hey, Littleton's willing to play ball?
Yes.
people care about this in the hotel industry?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. A couple of conversations ago that the team had, I think it was 2 years prior. One of the hotel partners said, you know, bring me a feasibility report and we'll talk, right? So, they want to see the numbers that it'll work.
Awesome. Thank you.
I imagine this would benefit our existing hotels as well.
I fully agree. Yeah, absolutely.
And my understanding is you're still about 10,000 short on funding this study in 2026.
10 to 15, correct.
So should we have a bake sale?
You just need me to put that my check.
Yeah, Gordon.
We may have found a path. We have to confirm and maybe put in another piece, but I think we're getting there. Yeah, we should be able to confirm that in March.
Awesome. If not, cupcakes, brownies, whatever you.
Let us know. Pancake breakfast.
Have you ever, has there ever been any interest in redeveloping Evergreen or Essex into like boutique, like even like a matching, like I remember after Schitt's Creek came out, there was like this big thing about like motel, like especially with like the mid-century modern
Yes.
push to have like coordinated motels where people could walk back and forth to like, maybe they have a bar and they have a restaurant or something. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Absolutely. Short answer, yes, very much so. Longer answer, going back a few months, the city participated in a technical assistance panel with the Urban Land Institute last year. The scope of that panel was to examine an area around Geneva Village. So essentially the city center building, including Arapahoe County building, the park, the lake, the lodge, the Geneva Village assets, and then hopping over Prince to that commercial development there, shops at Riverbend, and then a couple of the commercial residential developments to the south. Included in that scope was Essex. And part of that technical assistance panel is the ULI staff reaching out to property owners and businesses, et cetera. There was, and there have been historically some discussions with the property owner, but some additional discussions were had as part of that stakeholder outreach and engagement process there. And so we don't expect that that a sale is feasible at this point for the property owner, but they participated in that process. They spoke with a representative from ULI. So, you know, who's to say where they'll land? And that's really true with any property at the end of the day. But so something could happen and might shift their opinion there. But yes, there's been discussion about just in general redevelopment of that northern gateway that includes those properties that, you know, are front facing off of Santa Fe. Yeah.
Thank you for all of your hard work on that. That's a big
welcome.
deal.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm excited to see what the turnout, because yeah, why would a developer want to come in and build something that they're not gonna be able to fill the rooms? I mean,
Right. Right. And their decision-making and investment tends to be a little bit different than somebody in a different sector who's coming in with an investment. You know, and depending on the sector, right? You know, multifamily was a sure thing 5 years ago. Now that's slowing up a little bit, right? Office, it depends on the type of office. Hotels have been yo-yoing a lot. And when you break it down further, you know, those mid-size or the long stays or the boutique or the, you know, whatever it is, right? They all have their own kind of thorns that they're dealing with at the moment. So, this effort, I think is a broader effort in conjunction with, our marketing team, and others in the community, just to make sure that, again, from that strategic lens, that we're providing investments that build kind of the stepping stones to the next point. So while we might not build that hotel in downtown, what are those kind of connections that fill the gap or provide more of a framework that can be built out upon later, if that makes sense.
Does a study like this, does this study specifically factor in any if-then type scenarios? So if Hudson Gardens realizes its master plan, which we heard from a couple months ago, and they bring back large concerts, then this, or if ACC is successful in developing its arts and culture department, or if, as is called out for in the strategic plan, performing arts space were to come online in Littleton, then does that, any of that factor in that would be of relevance to us?
It could. I think it depends on the scope of what the if is.
More cupcakes.
Yeah, right. Things like the project downtown scope, right? That's a massive project. That's something that you would see reflected in the feasibility, if project downtown happens successfully, right? Which we all hope it does. Then you will see these impacts and these benefits from that. So that's a pretty large scale one. It's hard to say on things like public concerts at, Hudson Gardens, but if there's a critical mass of kind of that whole package deal of strategic plan initiatives and programs, that certainly, I would think, make an impact. Yeah.
Well done.
So we do, oh gosh, just lost it, sorry. I was thinking about one of your other questions, JD, for possible review in this meeting, but right now, like I said, we do think the feasibility study will fill in a lot of blanks and a lot of gaps. So I think we just have to get through that, and then we can have a real conversation about it. I will say, outside of hotels, we are looking at other ways to enhance the lodger's tax revenue for the city as a whole. Working more closely with South Suburban, for example, making sure that our hotels are marketed in their brochure for their sporting events, right, at their ice arena and whatnot. So those types of efforts are being increased this year as well. And I believe, I think it was at the end of last year, Alexandra and Jessica also started a conversation with our hotel partners, and I think a few others that regularly host events, to make sure that we're understanding additional ways that the city can partner their support. Any questions?
How has the number of rooms got sold? Has that decreased? We're seeing the funding, of course, at the end of the year, decrease, but do they have a reason why? Because I think my takeaway was, less people are staying in our hotels. That may not be true, but what is the reason for the drop in revenue with our hotels? Do we know?
I don't think they know.
Okay.
In general, from a very high level nationwide perspective on consumer behavior, travel was one of the hardest hit this past year. That could be part of it, right? It's kind of part of that analysis that you don't really know. I mean, I'm not sure to the extent that each hotel surveys folks either, right? But it's also hard to survey someone who's not coming. So it's a little bit of a guessing game, but I would say that that was a macro trend that we saw at the national level is, you know, reduction in travel plans, right? And reservations and things. Our hotels tend to be more regional, so it's hard to say if that was a trend that impacted us here. You know, I don't know. Yeah, but part of a feasibility too is some of that stakeholder investigation, right? Those interviews with those hotel partners. And at the end of the day, they don't have to share their data. That's proprietary, but they will, because to our point earlier, hopefully it benefits them.
We were talking about how for Airbnbs, there's been a decline in the growth of those as well.
So there was gosh, I don't know what year it was, but we did pass a regulatory change here in Littleton that significantly restricted folks to be able to use their property as a short-term rental. And I want to say it was 21, perhaps. I don't know if anyone in the room knows when this happened. Or if you guys know what I'm talking about.
One of the things that we've talked about is our concern for no sort of tracking or implementation of the Airbnbs being taxed for lodging, and so we're not getting any of that revenue. And I know people who come into town, they don't stay in a hotel, they stay in an Airbnb downtown.
Right.
And so is there any way that that could be sort of addressed and that funding returns to us if the people aren't staying in hotels?
Sure. So are you saying there's a thought or an indication that tax is not being collected on any of those properties, or just maybe not on all of them? Like, we're not aware of all of the properties? Or
there's no way to know if people are voluntarily doing the tax or not.
Yeah, got it. I want to say we've researched this with Airbnb and VRBO. There was something about getting records from them that there was a challenge. But I think when they looked at it a couple of years ago, it didn't seem to be that if there was a discrepancy, they couldn't see one from the data and information that they had and compared with what was coming in. Now, that being said, we have had a lot of system change internally with accounting systems and things like that. So through that change, there have been a couple of things that they've identified that tweaking or adjusting how they're collecting data, or is the data going to the right place, or do we have the right dollars in the right account, that kind of thing. So I'm happy to revisit that question internally with the team.
I think that, it's something that we've talked about a lot.
Anything else? That's all I had for today. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
very much.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
So, Board, the next thing is old business, and we were going to report results from the email vote on the 2026-27 lodgers tax policy. Is there an official report?
It was a majority yes, so we had 9 yes votes. Got pushed over to city manager's office. We've not heard anything back. So we're taking that as good news. No news is good news. So I believe Anna is moving forward with all of her deadlines and grant applications and so. Thanks for all.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a compressed timeline this year to get all that stuff out. Normally we have all of that lined up already, but I'm not too concerned. They open February 23rd.
And we don't need to ratify that, just reporting out.
Yep.
That is everything on the agenda for business tonight. Any other announcements, Anna, or upcoming events that we should be aware of?
I do have some items for new business. Do you want to take a 5-minute break? Does anyone need it?
Break? No break?
Let's keep going.
Let's do it.
Okay, thank you so
We're
much.
tough and pretty.
Yeah, okay, real quick, none of this is gonna be new to you, just mostly reminders of upcoming events and deadlines. But our Q1 CAP group meeting is coming up on February 4th. That's actually an interesting overlap with some of the things that Rachel was just talking about, because we will have the deputy director from the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts, the CBCA, come and talk about their every other year economic impact study on arts and culture in Metro Denver area. So that report just came out in November, and their deputy director is coming to present for our group. So I know it's a weekday, it's a morning. Many of you have other obligations like work, but if you don't and can make it, it's always worthwhile to come by. And breakfast is provided, as always.
Where will it be?
It's gonna be here.
Okay.
Yeah, the invite will go out like in the next couple of days.
Is it 8 o'clock?
It's 8 to 10 on Wednesday, February 4th.
And the food is really good.
As I mentioned already, the grant window is gonna open on February 23rd. And it will be open for around 6 weeks, closing on April 10th. So I just need to get that information out the door, assuming that city manager's office doesn't have additional feedback for us, which we are not anticipating they will. But, the State of the Arts event again will be on April 1st. It's also a Wednesday. It will be held at the ACC this year. And in anticipation of that event, we are doing our 3rd annual Arts and Culture Award. I will email this all out again to you so you have it in writing, but that award nomination closes February 15th. So if you haven't yet submitted your nomination, please be thinking about that and do it when you can, because it's fun and it's a great celebration of all the stuff we have going on in the community.
Is it gonna be in the main gallery?
Yeah,
And did you say that was April 4th,
April 1st.
1st?
Yeah, which I also just realized was the first night of Passover. So that was an oversight on my part and will not happen in future years. But we normally have it here and we have that big HVAC renovation, so things were a little wonky this year.
And it's also April Fool's Day.
Yeah, I know, don't try anything.
What day of the week is that? Is that a Friday?
It's a
It's a Wednesday. And then finally, we are full steam ahead on the 2026 mural, which will be at Doctor's Care. They call it the eyebrow and the mustache, the vinyl wrap that goes around the building, if you're familiar with it, on East Littleton Boulevard, that 4-story building. And I anticipate that the Public Art Subcommittee will be brought in at some point in the next month or two for their feedback on that design process, because that's well underway. So yeah, I'm hoping that'll get installed in April before it gets too hot. That's all I have for new business.
Thank you. Nothing else on the agenda. I'll sort of kick off the roundtable just with a couple other points. If there was anything in the list that Rachel shared as far as the project downtown and other things that you are particularly interested in or would like to learn more or think that this body should hear more about, either as it progresses or as they come online, please share that with Anna or Becky or Jenny or me, and I'll share it with Becky and Jenny and Anna. We do have representation on the Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan. Each of the boards and commissions was assigned seats on there. So I am serving on that, and Cameron is the alternate. Thank you very much. And then as other projects, as boards and commissions are invited, we will share opportunities as they come online. Otherwise, I'm a big fan of sticking my nose under the tent. So if, like I said, if there's anything on there that you think that this body should be represented or have a delegate to speak up, and we'll advocate for that. And while the culture of, I think, the city is in regards to board representation is changing, I'm always happy to be the point of that spear. The other thing is, if you're not sure whether or not your term comes to an end this year on this board, please be aware of when your term expires. And if you're interested in re-upping your application, which I hope everyone who may be expiring would be, please do so and make sure that you get that in on time. And if you have any problems or questions, again, let Anna or our team know. But that is all my notes. Denise?
Just going to plug the next storybook. Ballet is going to be Gretel. They are starting rehearsal in about a week. And they're going to be doing 5 performances. So more information to come.
My wife, this is just, I'm soliciting any recommendations anyone might have. My wife got me a great book on the history of Littleton over Christmas. I like finished it in like a day. It's short. And actually the author was mentioned in the public comment. That was Bob McQuarrie. It's called Littleton, Colorado Settlement to Centennial. I thought it was fantastic. My favorite little sort of vignette in there was a story about when they were first forming the town government. They were one of the big concerns about, well, if we form this government, the Women's Temperance League might come and try to solicit prohibition for Littleton. And anyway, they formed the city government, and lo and behold, like first couple weeks, Women's Temperance League comes. 4 of the town council members fled. The mayor got sick right at the beginning of the meeting, and then the town marshal, I think, sort of feigned looking around and couldn't find anybody. So anyway, I thought that was hilarious. My request to everybody is, if you have any other recommendations about books on the history of Littleton or books about Littleton, I would love to hear them. Not necessarily right now, but if you want to send them my way, I'm very interested. Thank you, and Happy New Year again to everybody.
I have nothing to share.
I have not started the semester yet, so my brain is not quite fully functioning. But we are gonna have an opening at Jansen Gallery, landscape photography show Thursday, January 29th from 5:30 to 7. Other than posting those on visiting Littleton, if there's another way I can communicate these types of art openings, let me know. And then we're going to be collaborating with the Bemis Library, doing a Big Ideas lecture series starting in February. That's going to be exciting. And it's going to be all of arts and culture, society, and music. So it's going to be our new dean's sort of whole area. So it could be a lecture on music, it could be a lecture on art, it could be a lecture on literature. So it's going to be kind of arranged. And then we're still doing our Art for Everyone lecture series. Last fall, it was in the ACC library, funded through behavioral health and art therapy. So I'm actually going to be giving a lecture in February on art as therapy about my work. So as soon as I know when that date is, I'll let you guys know.
Not a lot to say, but Littleton Q is going to be suspending the farmers market in 2026, so we can focus more on supporting the LGBTQ community than Littleton. And the first thing that we're doing in order to do that is on February 21st at the Buck Rec Center, we're hosting a Littleton LGBTQ Summit. So we'll have a panel and some speakers and some opportunity to like vision what we want out of LGBTQ community opportunities moving forward. So we'll be doing that
When is that?
February 21st. It'll be free to attend.
In the morning?
Yeah, 10 to 1.
So was the farmer's market too much of a struggle?
It was just too much effort for, it's just me running
Yeah.
everything. So
Dang.
I did let Alexandra know, because there have been other organizations that have been reaching out to ask if they could do a farmer's market. So hopefully somebody else will do it. So,
I don't have anything. Did you have anything
nope,
else?
that's all.
Just when you asked JD about like, is anyone interested in like those events that economic development supports, or just getting in more involved in the things that she said, from like an arts and culture perspective. It made me realize that, and maybe Joel is the answer person for this, I don't know. Like arts and culture wise, one thing that I'm really interested in is just our public trails. Like especially like the new path by Mineral or the Jackass Hill, like, or even like what's going on right now at Lee Gulch. How does one get involved, like besides just attending council meetings regular, like could we have like an arts and culture person involved in that kind of stuff? Like,
So I think you're probably gonna say what I was gonna say.
Well,
is it South
Please.
Suburban?
we actually just had a conversation earlier this week, when we do our little agenda prep meeting, that we are going to invite Public Works to come in the next, I don't know, say 6 months, and do a full 5-year forecast of all of the projects that are on the radar and that are maybe on the radar and that they're looking at, as it relates both to the Percent for Art program, because that is now of interest to us, but also that bigger picture, because as strong as the color that we chose for that bridge is, that's just an ugly bridge. And had we known about it 3 years ago, the work that we could have done and the grant funding we could have sought and the call for art, I mean, the things that could have been done with that are a huge missed opportunity. So I think the answer to your question is yes, within the next several, up to 6 months, Public Works will be here and giving us as far out as they can, look at all the different projects, which would include trails and bridges and whatever else it is they do.
Is that connected to South Suburban?
That's what I was just about to say. Many of the trails that you mentioned are actually sort of administered and maintained by South Suburban.
Okay,
And so to the extent that's like the specific interest that you have,
yeah,
I would be looking at getting involved in South Suburban.
okay.
But sorry, Anna.
Highline Trail Conservancy, which maybe
Yep,
you can
that's-
talk a little bit more about. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
didn't
Yes, I
you-
do work.
Yeah, you
Although that is just the one specific
Spot.
trail.
Yeah,
But you're welcome to
but-
volunteer. Anytime.
Okay.
Has South Suburban ever come here as a guest?
They came as Hudson Gardens.
Oh, right.
But more broadly, no, we haven't asked them to speak about the trails.
Yes.
Yet, yeah. South Suburban does have a public arts committee, which this body just appointed Katie to serve and represent on.
Meeting.
That focuses primarily on arts in like the rec centers and in the parks. So that hasn't touched a lot on trails.
Oh.
But I think it could. So yeah, no, those are great leads.
I'm also guessing that once we have money to spend for the percent program, starting in 2027, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those big public art projects happened along those open spaces and trails, because it's such a big part of identity here, I would say.
I think Grace Peterson would be a good person to invite. She's doing a lot of good stuff.
And it's writing.
Grace
I
Peterson.
am writing, yes. I have a couple things. Mostly this adorable booklet from Cycling Without Age Littleton, their Hudson Garden sculpture ride. This is a small book they have just printed fresh off the press, funded by one of our grants. So take a look because it's fun to have like a little, oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. I didn't make it.
Oh, real quick. Can I interrupt you for just a
Yes.
second?
I have a little
So
one.
speaking,
Go ahead, you're good.
speaking of the branding for like funded by an arts and culture
Yeah.
grant on the back of this booklet, I think that it could be really helpful for us to put together a toolkit that we can send to grant recipients so that they can recognize us in an appropriate way. Because I just kind of wung it with my website. It was like, here's City of Littleton logo, and then underneath it we'll put arts and culture grant.
Yeah.
But guiding people and providing them something that they should
Great
use for
idea.
those.
I think it's fantastic. I do know there's an existing resource about proper use of logo and fonts.
Great.
Well,
We could pull
typeface.
from that.
Yeah.
Should we involve a
I can-
flag?
Yeah.
Start with 1,000 colors. Sorry, that just reminded me.
Yeah, it is gonna be part of the application itself,
Okay.
like an acknowledgement, like I agree to,
Yeah.
whatever, and then, yes, and I will definitely be doing more follow-up
Okay.
with the mid-year and end-of-year reports for that. I feel like I had one more thing, but I
I
forgot,
interrupted you, I'm
so, no,
sorry.
that's good.
I don't have anything. I was just gonna say that I've noticed that they're doing the construction on that ugly bridge, and every time I drive past, I get excited because we pick the color, so.
I am excited to see what happens on the Main Street and the Alamo bridges, because I remembered after, like immediately after we left that meeting where we picked that Prince Street doesn't get mountains.
Right.
And so I was like, oh no, like Prince is just gonna be galvanized steel.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what the mountains end up actually looking like.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I still think Prince Street looks a lot better than it did.
It looks a lot better. than-
Yes.
I'm curious how they're gonna connect, like finish it off. It's still just kind of, I don't know. Anyway. I'm excited about it.
I'm just glad I can drive over it.
Well, and it's what it's going on right now, right, in this decade, and that then we have the future that we could. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
JD's already started work on the design.
I have something. I want to thank Becky for doing such a bang up job and Tim with reaccreditation. We had, early December, we had our site visit. It went really well. They didn't come back with anything, which is great, that we had to do. So we'll find out in a couple months.
The committee will meet in February, but our visiting committee had their report in to AAM within a week and a half, I think, and AAM had nothing for us to correct at that time. I'm sure the committee will come back. But Tim's pretty sure we set a record with getting that, for our committee, getting that report in and having nothing on our side to correct, so.
That's great.
Good job.
We're pretty proud of that one. So, well, thank you all for all your support and all your help with, I mean, everything from interviews to core documents. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you. And thank you, Jenny. You're welcome.
We're gonna award you a day off for your hard work.
It's just
Here in the arts.
Tomorrow sounds great. What do you think?
Tomorrow works.
The longest week of the year, it feels like.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been at an arts and culture meeting where Tim wasn't here.
I know.
The energy's been low today.
He take a day off. He's in Chicago. He said there's a biblical rainstorm right now, so.
Biblical.
Just so briefly, since I missed my chance earlier, I'm trying to get better about plugging the art exhibits that the library has going on in their downstairs gallery. This month, I would be extremely remiss if I didn't bring it up because it's an exhibit by an artist named Crystal Ho, that's spelled Hoeh, and the exhibit is a collection of works that are acrylic ink on canvas, and they take as their subject the architecture of downtown Littleton. So it's up through the end of the month, and you can approach it as a guessing game if you'd like. The artist has even set up sort of a card where you can make your best guess as to which building this is, and get bragging rights if you win them all. But it's incredibly colorful and locally relevant, so I'd invite you all to the lower level of the library anytime in January to come enjoy that exhibit.
Take the elevator.
You can do that.
There were two other things I just wanted to plug because I forgot the first go round. Our esteemed city manager is starring as the voice of God in Spam-A-Lot, opening February 22nd, I believe. So while he will not be in the building every night, his voice will be present. So if you want to go and see that show and woohoo for Mr. Becklenberg. And then Littleton Arts is hosting a music roundtable at the end of February to facilitate a discussion on how to bring more live music performance to the city of Littleton. So I'll be excited to report back on that after it happens.
And if nobody has seen Becklenberg's reading of Gen Z report on Littleton, it is hilarious. And it's on Insta, so look it up, it's funny.
Should we just go around again?
But if you just keep us here, we'll just keep thinking of
I was
stuff.
gonna say
still
shortest
excited
meeting,
about
but
the-
that was not true.
I
I know.
It's like
Bye.
we're really good listeners, and so we all had to express ourselves.
We were very good listeners.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll call it at 8:03.
Thank you.